we're starting. Okay, so you're kind of having a little meltdown. This is our second session, by the way.
Yes.
Second session. So you can expect it's not going to be immediate, right? It's not going to be an immediate shift, although can you tell things are changing?
Definitely, yes. Yes. It's been an incredible weekend. It's been challenging dealing with different people in my life. Oh, well, I'm blaming on them, but things have been so different over the weekend. Yeah. But today I'm kind of, I guess I was feeling like I'm bearing fruit from some of the stuff that I have been doing in my life, like escaping, and now my toddler's having discipline issues. So
how old is your toddler?
He's just going to be 4 in December.
Yeah, well, welcome to having a toddler.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but my toddler's having discipline problems. I mean, it's like, I don't know why. I mean, he's like 3 years old, going on to 4, and I don't know what his problem is, but he's having issues, like, listening and doing exactly what I say.
Exactly. And then I was with somebody who, kind of makes me, I feel insecure with this person.
So yes. Well, that tells me you're insecure with yourself, and you're afraid to be criticized by what you feel insecure by, and this person just magnifies your own feelings and fears, right?
Yeah.
Because if you truly believed and felt that you were doing the best you could and doing a job you feel good about, like, this is how I'm doing it, would you really care what someone thought if they thought negatively about it?
Right. No. Yeah.
You'd be like, doesn't even matter, I'm doing it this way. I feel pretty good about it. I know my son. I know me. I know reality. And I'm going to do the best I can. And so whether someone else can have an opinion all they want, but this isn't their son.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Everybody should do what they believe is the right thing to do. And the truth is that all parents are doing what they think is right, even if it's not very much right of anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my parents did the best they could with what they knew. And every parent has regrets. You just need to admit that you regret it already. Just admit it to yourself. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't either. I seriously don't either. And I could just say, I only know let's just look at this for a second in terms of, like, how we feel as parents. All I know is what my parents did. And I know my perception of it. Whether it was right or wrong, and what I think they should have done or what they shouldn't have done. I mean, I have my own perceptions of it, and then I'm projecting that onto my children.
Yeah.
So I'm parenting my kids the way that I thought maybe I should be parented. So I'm actually selfishly parenting my kids the way I want it to be. It's not even parenting them for who they are and what their needs are. I'm parenting them for my needs. It's just, inherently, I'm just passing down shitty parenting.
Yeah. Oh,
because it has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with me.
Wow.
And so it's like, so you're parenting your son out of fear of what other people think. Not about him. And how he's, developing. It's not with grace. You know what I mean? Isn't it sad to hear that? So the moment you realize, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can. And I can't do better than that. We can't. There's nothing you can do. And it gets real complicated. When my son's 14, 15, it gets super complicated. And at some point you realize no matter what I do, he's on his own.
I know. I have a 21-year-old boy too, so I'm like,
so you totally get that.
How do I not realize this?
Well, because you're in that, it's kind of hard not to. I think there's a part of our brain that's wired to be in it. When we're in it, it's a purposeful, point of the brain that there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of are engaged in a way. And you know what? People who are super critical, just imagine what it takes for someone to know what's right for your son.
Wow, yeah.
And that person could be you. You could be that person. I know what's right for him. Well, you kind of got to do the best you can, but what's right for him might be different than what's right for you. You know, knowing what was right for you and then projecting that onto your son. You know, I've come out and told my kids that I've actually said those words to my kids. All I'm doing is what I only had one set of parents to go from. And so I really don't know what I'm doing, but I do know culture. I know the culture we live in. Okay. I have a grasp of that. And I know that I am raising you in that culture. So I've got to get you to assimilate. And my goal is that you don't become brainwashed by it or programmed by it, right? I don't want you to be like a robot, but I need you to assimilate. I mean,
yeah.
And the ability to also adapt if you go into a different culture. So if you move down south, or if you move to Seattle, or if you move to Canada, so my goal is to teach you to assimilate and to be adaptable. Right?
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
To be, you know, my goal is to get them to be judged and shamed by people who don't understand the difference between being programmed and assimilation. Right?
Yeah.
No one taught me this stuff. This is just based on what I needed.
Yeah.
I needed that.
Your experience, yes.
Yeah. So, and in the end, I'm missing a huge amount of fulfillment. I'm not doing, there's something that I'm not providing for my children. It's not that I'm doing it intentionally. I just don't know they need that provision. I don't know they need it because children don't know how to verbalize their needs so much or even know they have a need till they're older and reprocess from an adult's awareness. And typically, you know, when you look at kids, we just inherently honor our parents. It's when we're older and victim-y that we go back and go, they did that to me. They were terrible parents.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And how mean is that? Because I don't, I mean, my dad had terrible PTSD from Vietnam. Beat the living shit out of us kids. There were 10 of us. My mom enabled the whole thing. And not only that, but once he stopped physically beating us, we were super, super programmed into religion. And, you know, the 1980s, religious programming. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I can look back and be all angry and upset, but in the reality, my parents loved us so much, and my dad didn't get help, and they didn't have help back then, and he was trying to process killing people and coming out of Vietnam and being spit on, and you know what I mean? It's like, am I going to go and judge him for having rage?
Wow, yeah.
Anyways, I'm kind of digressing, but my point is, as parents, I'm doing the best I can, you know?
Yeah.
So if someone can have a strong opinion about what I should be doing, and good for them.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. See, that's where I'm just getting stuck. Is like, why am I allowing everybody's opinion, you know, to dictate my life or just
because you're not secure.
Change me. Yeah.
You just got to get secure in that I'm doing the best I can with what I'm aware of, and there's no alternative. I don't have an alternative. Someone can tell me what I'm not doing right, and if it doesn't come from kind of an internal awareness, all it's doing is, you know, especially if you're not secure in yourself, all their opinion is doing is confirming that you suck because you didn't know that. Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What should I do? So, you know, and the most critical people, honest sometimes, are the least trustworthy.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
A lot. What you should and shouldn't do with your kids socially, what you shouldn't, how they should act. It's kind of like how opinionated people are about dogs.
Yeah.
How you should do it. How you should leash them. Hey, shut up! Come on! You just so happen to always get riled up right when I turn on the video camera.
Yeah, that sounds like my little boy too. If he was out here with me.
Dogs are here. Hi. They say hi. But yeah, do you see, I remember this feeling too. And eventually I just remember thinking, you know what? I'm okay being the bad mom. I will be that bad mom that,
Yeah, really, really.
I have my kids on a bike and he's not wearing a helmet. I'm so horrible. I'm the worst mom ever. Or he's on a scooter, and there's some moms that are really, and what you might not be realizing is the most extreme parents are super inflamed. They're like freaked out about everybody getting molested and murdered, and they're catastrophizing everything. And when you're in it, you might not be realizing this person has got some serious distortion around reality. If I treat my kid with all of this protective gear, I'm teaching him that he's weak and incapable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's so true, because I have been, oh, don't do that. Oh, don't do that. Don't get up there. You might fall. You might do this.
Yeah, and are you saying that in fear of people's...
With a group, he was afraid to jump down when all the other kids were jumping.
Yeah.
He was, afraid to do it because I told him, you might get hurt.
Yeah, you're telling him his body sucks and it can't handle it. So he should just... And what do you think the likelihood of him getting injured is now?
Wow, now he probably will.
Much higher. Yeah, because he's not learning his body in the motor learning system of the body requires exploration. And so parents that are hover parenting, that's something you might want to Google.
Yeah.
Tend to have children who have a lot of insecurities. Later on in life, they end up really resenting being super controlled. And where do you think that goes?
Oh my gosh, yep.
So yeah, you might want to question those hover parenting strategies that are super hypercritical of everybody that's more lenient. I have one friend and I love her, but she is like the anti-porn Nazi. I will not be surprised if her son says, I'm addicted to porn. And it's like, she basically handed him that problem. Because that's all she talks about. And she's super controlling with everything.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that her daughter, who hangs out with my daughter, we're really good friends. And I just let her be herself. I don't ever tell her, like, oh, Jesus, Crystal. Her daughter, my daughter's like, oh, I always ask, who's the most, in your group of friends, who's the most risky? Who's the one that's like boy hungry? And it's her daughter.
Yeah.
She's the most strict, the most controlling parent.
Yep. Oh my gosh, yeah.
And she's not judgy. She's not a judgy person. She's just super fear-based. Super fear-based.
Yep, that's how I do this too. Oh my gosh.
Well, and you're inflamed. Look at what you're doing. Look at your internal environment that you are with just yourself. Right, so if you're not relaxed within yourself, if you don't feel safe independently with yourself, there's really nothing you can do. You're going to project that outward, Yeah. Don't criticize yourself. Don't feel bad. It makes a whole lot of sense to me that if you're carrying this psychological kind of torment, why you would be inflamed and magnifying the detriment of everything around you. It's kind of coming from your own personal inflammation with yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, my husband even says that to me, why is everything so, such a disaster? Or,
catastrophizing it?
Negative, because I'm just like, oh my God, here's this.
That's your state of consciousness. That's just where you see and perceiving everything. That's telling me your level of survival is really under, everything sucks. You're looking for, everything is confirming that it's not good. I mean? That's kind of like a way of thinking about things that comes from that state of consciousness, if you want to look at it that way. So, that's why I'm like, don't feel bad as you change. But the thing is that the way you feel within yourself, with yourself socially, ultimately you are, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel good, if you don't feel confident, can you see why you would be trying to feel better about that by being controlling?
Yeah. Yep.
That would be a natural tendency for anybody, don't you agree?
Yeah.
If you felt like this, Why wouldn't you do that? Like, those two go hand in hand. It's kind of like peanut butter and jelly. I'm feeling insecure. The desire to be secure would require control. That's how the brain, that's how the ego secures itself, is through trying to create a predictable environment. Can you see then why you would have a hard time with a 3/4-year-old?
Yeah. Oh, wow, yes.
And it's not him that's the problem. He's normal. He's a good, normal kid. It's you that needs the perfectionism. So you're in your need for perfectionism within yourself. You're projecting that onto a 3/4-year-old, and he's going to internalize it as, I suck. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. That's how it passes down to the next generation.
My poor baby.
I want you to turn that towards yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not pity, but to go, oh, this is ridiculous.
I know.
I'm living tortured. This is torture. There's for what? Why be so tortured? We could look at what is the cord, the root of your being tortured. If we eliminated body image from existence, what's left? That's a main cord. I would put a lot of money on that if I could bet of it, right?
Yeah.
For me, I had religious issues. I had family pecking order issues, right?
Yeah.
And I also had personal awareness issues. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the personal awareness one really probably was the main seed. Right? So the religious issues were family oriented, and my family hierarchy, whatever. But so look within yourself, and you could say, well, if you were to, one way to do it is to go blind, right? Get rid of the fatness. Go blind in your mind.
Yeah.
So if we erased the physicality of the body from importance. We're not changing your body. We're just removing the importance of it. It's irrelevant. Is there anything left in terms of you feeling that threatened in your security?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing that comes to me is like feeling rejected kind of by my parents.
Okay, so for what reason?
Well, the one is the parenting, and then...
So your parents think you're not parenting properly?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jesus Christ. So they're really kind of are they like outwardly critical of you?
I might be projecting it.
Okay. All right, so that's important to know.
I was also talking to my older son about it this morning, and he was, saying that he feels that way too.
About what?
About them, like what he sees from them.
Oh, that they're critical?
Yeah.
So here's what we have to understand is that they clearly believe. So if it's true, we could be wrong, right? Again, you could be projecting, and your son could be buying into your projected.
Yeah.
Okay, so just go into the assumption that your projection is true, and let's resolve it. So what?
Yeah.
So
really?
What? I'm sorry, but 1970s is very different than 2017. Totally different culture. I mean, it would be like saying when they were in the 1940s and 50s being raised, compare that to the 1970s. They would go, oh, totally different. Well, of course.
Yeah.
So going into the 2000s, and now we're into 2017. We don't know what we're doing. I mean, there is no reality that we were raised in that still exists today.
Right.
Well, the earth is the same, riding a bike is the same. School is different. Education is different, which is great. It's a good thing. All in all, everything is so much better.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so the other thing is the older generation, what we have is night and day better. Right?
Yeah.
And there's always a learning curve to how things progress. So as there's a learning curve, it gets better. And the problem with people who are not in touch with reality anymore is they seem to have their own ignorant assumptions about how we should be doing it.
Wow. Yes.
And I just want to say, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't say that, but I just said it now and it felt really good. Oh, that older generation needs to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're talking about. They have no idea. My mother-in-law on multiple occasions has been like, it's so sad that you guys they don't do the Pledge of Allegiance. I was like, well, where are you getting your information? They say the Pledge of Allegiance every day. It's like they just believe what they hear. They're not involved. They have no idea what's going on. And how incredibly amazing the education is compared to when they went to school.
Right.
And the amount of knowledge we have access to as parents. They had nothing. I mean, we're talking about the generation that created the diet industry. Should they be telling us?
And still going with it.
Oh,
Still rolling with it.
Yeah, so should you give them credibility to tell you at some point you just have to recognize ignorance in your parents and forgive them. They don't need to know how ignorant they are. They don't need to know how they couldn't survive as parents today. Because you can't buy a house like you did in the 1980s.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't just make money like you did. It's kind of hard. It's not like easy. It was easy for them. That generation is the narcissistic generation.
Wow.
They think that it's the millennials. No.
Yeah. That's what my older son was saying. He's like, when that generation is blaming the millennials, it's because they don't want to take responsibility for the way they raised the millennials.
Correct. And I'm not saying that it's just like, just get in your own goddamn lane. You're old and you're not capable anymore. So get over.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. Stop making decisions. I know, but you can't. Right? Because they're supposed to be so much wiser. It's like they've never been in this environment, nor did they ever raise anybody in this environment. And we're figuring this out as we're going. You're judging us from the outside?
Right.
Shoo fly.
Yeah.
Anyways. But I'm telling you, I'm talking to you right now because I'm in the same environment you are. And what you're experiencing from the baby boomer generation, there's some great things coming out of that generation, but a lot of the problems that we're living in right now is caused from that generation. That was the generation of total narcissism.
Wow. Yeah.
The diet industry, the whole superiority, religious supremacy. I mean, go into every part of our culture and programming. And you can see it came after World War II, and then it just is like major downsides to how the system runs because of it.
Wow. That's
the
interesting. Yeah.
Mass amount of mental health problems.
Yeah.
So our generation's actually fixing the issue, creating industries, talking about it. We're the ones that suffered everybody has suffered, you could say. I mean, that generation suffered in a different way. And a lot of compassion for my parents and what my mom and dad went through and all that I have compassion for, but when it comes to parenting, they need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're talking about. So you have to be able to give them grace, right?
Right.
It's like,
oh my gosh.
If only you were in reality, but you're not. You're retired now, and you got to buy your house for $20,000, and it was paid off 40 years ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're going to tell me how it's supposed to work now, and,
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I'm so glad I could talk to you about that, too. It's like, this doesn't pertain to that part, we're going through with the body, but yes, it does. Paul does.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, what you're going to need to do, and whatever, I think everybody has to go through this in their life. My parents had to do it. Your parents had to do it. We all have to get to a point where we're aware our parents are no longer really reliable for certain things.
Yeah.
That you're more reliable than they are. It does not mean that your parents, again, my parents are incredibly wise. My in-laws, incredibly wise. When it comes to certain things, I am better off relying on myself. Not because they suck. I'm not going to define them that way, but because I'm far more aware than they are.
Yeah.
I am more integrated in reality than they are. They are retired. They are no longer in the school systems. They no longer are actually in the mix of jobs and working and being an entrepreneur and paying your bills and I don't have dental, and, they've got their retire. You know what I'm saying? How am I going to pay to get my son's teeth filled? It's got to come out of pocket because I don't have dental insurance. And okay, I still owe $7,000 in medical deductibles.
Oh, wow.
Even though I have insurance, but I can't afford anything because I still paying. But they don't get it because back when they had kids, it cost $20 to get a filling, not $200.
Exactly. Wow.
So you see what I mean by like. You're in reality, you have to give them the grace of not being in it.
Right.
And you know what? When our kids have kids, we are going to be at some point disconnected from reality. You just have to trust that whatever my children do with my grandchildren, they're going to do the best they can with what they're aware of within the system that they're assimilating to. Having an opinion about it isn't going to change anything.
Yeah. Wow.
So get comfortable with who you are and what you're doing. You're doing the best job you can. You can't do better than that. If you knew something better, you'd already be doing it. And you have to, on some part of this as well, you have to understand your children's ability. So, that often is not given credit. That's what we didn't get credit for. We could look at our generation and our parents to some degree, like for me, being raised in such religious radicalism, you are incapable without this religion.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Right? You could say with your body image that you are incapable without thinness.
Yeah.
That's a religion, right? We talked about that. The religion of thinness. It is totally a religion. They just don't call it that, but it is a system that is flying under the radar as it's a way to control your body. You're the one taking control, when in reality, no, you're not. They are taking control. You're doing what they say, and you think it's yourself doing it. You're not. So there's that, You can't handle it. We need to control your food. Here, follow this program. Count your calories. Use the systems. Here's your eating system. Don't listen to your body. You can't handle it. Your body can't handle this. Remember when I said to you, the body that is supplying you life, eyes, hearing, everything you're taught is killing you. And it's like, well, what if you just let it be? What do you think's going to happen to your body when you just ignore it?
Yeah, it tells me what it needs and sorts itself out.
Yeah, what do you think your body, you know what I'm saying? It's like, ignore it. The industry that says, we can help you, you have to do something. How's that helped out? What's happened?
Yeah, it's made everything worse.
Yeah, it puts you in a state of mind to be stimulated in that primal urge to feast. They would never take ownership of that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. But you could look at it and go, that's kind of radical to cut out all sugar. Isn't that a little extreme? Well, you never would have thought that until you got the consequences, right? Cut out carbs? What are you, crazy? No more bread or cake? I mean, what that does is it magnifies the importance of those things. So now you have all these consequences, right?
Yeah.
Because we were never given the idea that you can handle this. It was always, you can't handle that. We have a system we're selling your parents, and your parents are going to program you by this. So we're the generation of the brainwashed in recovery.
Wow.
You know? And now we're no longer brainwashing our kids, and guess who's judging us?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Now, I don't want to say that everybody from the baby boomer generation's this way, because they were also the hippies and, the free spirits and...
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a huge stereotype for each
No,
group,
it's not, but I can stereotype the group I was in.
Yeah.
And raised by, So anyways, it really comes down to you feeling good enough.
Yeah.
You feel good enough. And you have to go into your reality, not, am I good enough compared to this ideal? Am I good enough compared to what the expectations? Get rid of the expectations completely and go into your true, authentic ability as a mom. As a person, as in yourself, because really what you're doing with your kids is a reflection of what you're aware of within yourself, right? I can only parent my children with what I'm aware of within myself. But like I said, I'm aware that I really was raised to be attached to programs and that programmed me. And in the end, it really harmed me. I'm not anti-program. It's real, like I said, there's a difference between assimilation and attachment. Assimilation and conforming and becoming what you're doing versus living in it versus becoming it, right? Identifying who I am by the system. That's what happened to me. That's probably what happened to you. And now what we've got to do is go, no. I now have to start over from childhood as an adult to redo this. And as you do that, you're basically raising yourself as you raise your kid. You're capable. Follow what's intrinsic. Here's what you have to do to assimilate. You need to go to school. Here's the system in place. Here's the system. You're going to go to school. You're going to get educated. You're going to go to college. There's going to be certain training in there. And then hopefully you get a job. That doesn't necessarily work anymore. That's what we were told. It doesn't necessarily work. So be dynamic and be okay with working, in the service industry. Lower your standards for what your living needs are and adapt. Right? Versus what we were taught was, you have to be the best, you have to do the best, you have to do this, and you're going to make a shit ton of money. You're going to be super rich and famous.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Yeah. We were handed narcissism.
Yeah. Wow. So huge.
It is a big deal. You know?
This weekend I felt really free from the body image situation, and then, all these other things came to light,
Yeah. And you just have to accept. Just be okay with criticism. Yeah. And what you need to learn is be okay with criticism.
Yes. That's the hugest part right there.
Yeah. Does criticism really matter? When you're doing the best you can with what you're aware of. Does that criticism really matter?
No.
You can listen to it and use it as feedback, but don't internalize it as, I'm terrible. Your kids know that your kids will always honor Just like I honored my parents. I love my parents very much. I loved them as it was really, really abusive at times, right?
Yeah.
I love them now. It's like, because I know my parents loved me, even though I was neglected. There's all this other shit. It's like, I would never want my parents to be defined by all that. And you know what? I'm pretty sure your kids wouldn't either. Want you to be defined by whatever you're sucking at right now. I think it's also very important, because this is something that our parents didn't talk about, was their failures. They never talked about that. I know my parents didn't.
Wow.
Right? If your parents are baby boomers, you and I are the same age, so I'm kind of making an assumption there. They were taught not to talk about anything.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it, and so I was raised to think my parents were perfect. They've never talked about anything, and part of that was their generation and what they were taught. So I've really found that by being honest with my kids about me and sucking, and the fact that I'm okay with mistakes and I'm willing to apologize. I'm willing to go, I wasn't very nice when I said that. I was kind of, that humbleness around myself as their parent, as their leader and their guide, that it's given me grace with them. Because I'm so fine saying, I suck. I understand that there are things that you might not be aware of that I'm not providing for you. And maybe when you're older, you're going to realize I didn't provide it for you and you needed it. And I just want you to know I'm sorry.
Wow.
Right now, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing what I'm aware of. And good luck. Right?
Yeah.
And
good.
So there is this balance between being, with my husband, being the leaders of the family, but also being with my children, with them, not above them.
Yeah.
Right? I'm guiding and teaching, and I'm establishing house rules, but I am not against them. Again, it's like my son at this point, I believe, and my oldest daughter. I think they're at the point where even if I said you might want to don't do that, they're basically making decisions on their own now.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've noticed with your older, it's like at some point you can parent all you want. They're in charge of their decisions. They are now moving forward. Their ship has sailed. They're living with me. They listen to me, but when it comes down to specific environments, they're not going to go, my mom said no, I'm going to say no.
Right.
They're in their own mind picking and choosing, well, this would be fun. And, my goal at this point is to just teach them how to create distance between thought and choice. Because it's not my guidance anymore that's guiding them.
Wow.
So do you see how now that brings us at the same level?
Yeah.
And that also means that they are getting the consequences they deserve. So if I get a call, your son's in the jail, I'll be like, all right, well, I hope he's doing okay.
Yeah.
And I've told that to him. I'm like, that's fine. You just need to know I'm not going to bail you out.
Exactly. Yeah. Have to pay the consequences for.
I'll still visit you. I'll still be there every day to be like, I love you. It's so great. Okay, I'm going to go back to my free life now because I don't break the law. My point, right?
Right. Yeah. That's good.
But yeah, you got to forgive your parents. And, I also think this is part of that generation constantly wanting to be above you. You suck.
Yeah.
There's so much of that. So much of that from that older generation.
Wow.
And again, it's narcissism to the extreme. They don't see it because narcissism doesn't see the narcissism, but they are overcompensating big time, and they're still positioning themselves as authoritarians over us.
Yeah.
Even though they are so fucking clueless. and incapable at this point. It would not survive this, but that they're going to demonize everybody below them. So at some point, you give them that space in their mind, because if they're in that state of narcissism, like most of the people from that generation, give it to them.
Yeah.
Just, oh yeah. But you know what? Don't take them credibly when it comes to clear inconsistencies between reality and their fantasy of what they think you should be doing.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Because it might not be clear to them.
Yeah.
So you got to give them that. This isn't clear to them. Great advice if it was 1982.
Yeah. And then not trying to press the point of how it's wrong.
No, you don't need to. Because in their minds, they really believe they know more than you.
Yeah.
And you just have to go, that's awesome. Thank you so much for the feedback. You know what? I'm going to process this. Wow. And I understand, you know. Yeah. Sometimes they just want to be in that position and they don't want to lose it. Their authoritarian role.
Yeah. Wow. That makes it so much easier.
Yeah, because you can just know that's what it is instead of taking it serious.
Yeah.
Don't you agree that taking it serious is the hardest part? Because now you got to do something. And it's just like, now it feels like the air was sucked out of the room.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened earlier. And then it just ended in chaos.
So how are you doing with the body image stuff?
Pretty good. This weekend I felt really, I don't know how to explain it. I guess clear-headed. Like it was this like a strange kind of open space that I don't remember feeling ever. And almost like I got bored because I didn't know what to do with the freedom of it.
Yeah, that means boredom is a sign that might be something, that's a sign of what you were getting out of the drama.
Yeah.
That it was entertaining you. It was like something to do, something to work on, something to, and if it's gone, it's kind of like, oh. So that just observe that feeling and realize that no wonder it was like perpetuated. You hated something but loved it. You know, I always say to people, there's something you get out of it. You're getting something out of the victim position, the drama. You love your victimization.
Yep.
You know? And so when it goes away, when there's a sense of, oh, I'm bored, that gives you a sign right there of something you got out of it. Entertainment. Yeah. Something to do. Drama.
Wow.
Like pot stirring. Let's stir the pot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I felt. So, the whole time, I didn't really feel, focused on food or...
Now, is that different? Because when you reached out, it was like, this is not good.
Yeah, it was like just constantly, if I was bored, I was, working up what the next awesome meal was going to be. And then every time I would go overboard. Like a binge for me is not like, like you see in a movie where somebody's just sitting down and stuffing all the cakes in their face. It's like overeating every meal.
Intentionally.
It's what I consider a binge.
Yeah, and it's intentional.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm going to have this, and I'm going to get that, and I'm going to have this,
Yeah, you're binging. It's just days of it. You're not doing it in one sitting. You're doing it for days. So that's not uncommon for people who have put off dieting for a long time. The diet is still there. It's just been put off. So let's just say you're going to give yourself a month. Well, then you're not going to binge every meal. It's not going to be as frantic as someone who believes they should be dieting now.
Yeah.
Right? The dieting now is what creates that big binge. Right? Because I should be I'm in the mind, I should be dieting. Right? So this is where the clients I have that are like 350, 400 pounds, they live in a state of such shame that every time they eat, it is catastrophic. So what this tells me is, from my observation, and I could be wrong here, but as far as feedback goes, when you're doing that planning and stuff, you're getting high. You're just drawing it out through, I'm going to do this for over a month. And so you really get excited about making those meals and making it extravagant because you know there will be an end to it. So you're getting as much out of it as you can.
Yeah.
Right? And so can you see why then you would be super pumped about each meal? Because each meal is like another feast before eventually you go back into famine. You're not currently in a state of implemented deprivation. I've had many clients who believed they should never eat. Ever.
Oh my gosh.
So they binged every time.
Wow.
Right? Now, when you first contacted me, was that the case?
Yeah.
And so
yeah,
as
like
you...
I always felt weird and guilty, and like if I bought something at a store, I was looking around at whatever, what are they thinking about me? I shouldn't be having that. I should only be having broccoli and chicken breasts in my cart, or.
Yeah, and even some people feel like they should have zero.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even have good food. It's all bad. I should just never eat because I am that big of a loser. They have that much shame attached to it.
Yeah.
And they end up binging all the time, like full-fledged binging. Whereas for you, because you are giving yourself the grace of pause, you're actually spreading the binge out for a long period of time. So that takes some of the impulsivity out of it. It's still calculated, which the calculation of it is exciting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, if it's permanently gone forever, it kind of takes the wind out of the sail. It's like, that can create a sense of boredom as well. Like, whoop-de-doo. The food, I can eat extravagant all the time now, forever. So what do I really want? And it can really kind of deflate the excitement behind cake. It's like, cake.
It really has, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is surprising, right?
I had ice cream in the freezer and I didn't care. I had one bowl of it this weekend and that was it.
Yeah. Can you see why some
gone.
people they can miss that? It's like cheating or something, the excitement of doing something wrong.
Yeah.
When it's like not made wrong anymore, you're like, oh.
No big deal anymore.
It's just kind of like lost it loses its sparkle, loses the appeal, which is amazing, right? Don't you agree? That's amazing, because before you could say it was almost overwhelmingly it was like addictive.
Yeah, I couldn't not have it. If I knew the ice cream was in there, I just constantly thinking about it, like, oh, I'm gonna go get a spoonful of that, or throughout the day, grab a spoonful here and there, or sit down after everybody's in bed and eat a big bowl of ice cream.
Right, especially if you're like, I failed, I might as well.
Yeah,
then it becomes like all you're thinking about. And again, the more you are aware about a form of deprivation coming, the more you're going to do that. Right? Yeah. So if you knew, well, in a couple weeks, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all this stuff, can you see why you would go back to the grocery store and get more ice cream?
Yeah. Because
you're feasting before the famine of those things.
Wow.
So it becomes really magnified. That's so normal. That's actually, you're working perfectly. That's so normal for people who are going to starve themselves. Right? Really think of it from that position. Any human being who is told you will never have ice cream again, ever, what are they going to do up to the point of removing the ice cream?
Yeah, try to get as much as you can.
Yeah, if you said you're not going to have ice cream for another year. They clutch to it. They're just clutching to it.
Wow, yeah.
And then when they are depriving themselves, when they feel pissed off and deprived and resent the fact that they can't have ice cream when everybody else is eating ice cream, then they have to create an emotional reason for why they deserve it. That's the emotional eating that we talk about. Are you really emotional eating, or are you compensating for depriving yourself from food you feel is bad, which is a projection of how bad you feel about your weight?
Wow.
Yeah. Right? You blame it on the food and just say it's so good, it's so rich, you can't stop eating it. Well, that's not the case if you actually open up to the shame you have about your weight that's projected into the shame about food that you've been told is bad. That you have to restrict that food and the deprivation you feel, and then the feelings of resentment that occurs when everybody else gets to eat it, and that skinny girl gets to eat it, and she's not overweight, and then you feel like resentful, and then you've got to create a reason why you deserve it to feel better about it.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So to just say that, oh, you're addicted to that food is super shallow.
Yeah, it's not the truth.
It's way deeper than that.
After this weekend for a fact, because before, when I was in it, feeling like, the body image issues, I felt like I was out of control. I had to have it.
With food. Yeah, that's why you contacted me.
I feel like it doesn't make a big difference. I can eat a half of a sandwich and, I don't have to finish the whole thing because it's there or it tastes really good or...
Yeah. Well, and the thing is what do you think will happen the moment you start to feel bad about your weight because you're out of breath? The moment you become a victim of your body.
I'll feel like I want to go back to the binge. And let me tell you, that did happen after I had listened to our last session, and you had mentioned about HCG. And I had never really, I've seen people do that, but I never really considered it. So I started searching it. And then as soon as I started to have the idea, maybe.
You fantasize about losing
weight.
I
started feeling sick, like physically sick, like, here comes a bit or, a binge because I'm going to deprive and do this.
Yes.
Because I was listening to the girls talking about what they ate. And it was like a lettuce and some broth. And I'm like, oh no.
Never mind.
I better go get a cheeseburger right now.
Well, because...
But I didn't, But
and I look at that like, it's kind of like having some form of post-traumatic dieting stress. Like you have been under such strict dieting in your past, even if you've never done the protocol, that it creates this overwhelming sense of panic around access to food.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It could have been with any diet if I entertained the thought that it was going to be, the thing that was fixing me.
Yeah. No.
Wow.
Yeah. Not at all. So again, I want to go back to the binging part of this. If you feel bad about your weight and you're 125 or 325 ish.
Yeah.
What's the highest? What's the highest weight you've ever been?
The last time I weighed myself, it was 336, and that was about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, well, let's just assume it's that. Let's just assume it's getting higher. You're at 345 now, right?
Yeah.
The benefit of having a diet is that whatever overeating you've done to get here, the illusion is that you don't have to take responsibility for that fun and excitement because the physical consequence of that excessiveness will get fixed. So you don't have to take responsibility with food. But as soon as we get rid of the fix, there's a few things that does. The fix being the diet. Well, first of all, if there's no diet to get rid of the weight gain, would you still get overly excited about overeating?
No.
So the excitement would depress. The inflation around the excitement with food would deflate. Because all of a sudden it's like, well, shit, I got to take responsibility.
Yeah.
Crap. Right? So the position a lot of people take is, poor me, I don't get to be excited. This is boring, Robin. And so you see how that's not taking responsibility.
Right.
Because I want to excessively eat. And I need the diet to get rid of the damages. I need something to come up and make sure that the harm that I'm going to do is removed. So do you see where the diet industry really plays that role? And that's the role they're hiding. They're controlling they make it seem like they are they're your rescuer. They are going to come and fix this. So that's the role they play overtly. Covertly, they're the ones who say, you're fat and you suck.
Yeah.
So you have to use us because you're a piece of shit. Right? So they're the ones creating the stigma of your weight. And they're also playing the rescuer. We'll take care of it for you. Right? And so this relationship with food becomes super distorted, magnified. So if we get rid of the diet industry, there's two sides to it. Not only are you held responsible for this distorted, magnified relationship with food, but you're also left with your current body, right? You remove the diet industry completely, you're left without the shame of thin supremacy, unless you have internalized it as your own. So do you see why that's the route I start? I don't start with, let's work on your food. I go, because you internalized it. So even if we remove the diet industry, we remove the media, you and your mind are now the persecutor to the body because you believe your body sucks, right?
Wow, yeah.
So that's the route I go right off the bat. And then the next thing that happens, it's like the diet stuff naturally changes because there's no point. If you accept the body as it is in exchange for freedom, what's the point of dieting? Why would you do that to yourself? It's inhumane. It's mean. It's just absolutely over the top radical restriction, especially since you felt so radically bad about your weight.
Yeah.
Right? So if we get rid of the radical badness and go into acceptance, there's no point to a radical diet anymore.
Yeah.
So what happens then to this over-emotionalized relationship with food?
It's over.
There's no point to it.
Yeah.
So do you see how that is supernatural? But we have to go the route, kind of a two-sided prong here. Self-acceptance, forgiveness. Remember, you have to forgive yourself for the damages. Accept it, move on. And then the diet goes away. There's no point to it. So you have to release yourself from this whole concept of I should restrict. I have to force my body to get better. I did the damages. I have to fix it. We just remove it all. And now you're in a place where the body is really given an environment it can handle itself in. Because you're not causing all this drama anymore. The all or nothing is gone. You're now kind of just naturally balancing in a center point. Right?
Yeah.
But the moment that you decide, I can't live with this anymore, meaning your weight.
Wow. Yep. And it comes all back.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important that you really resolve a lot of these things around your weight with your parents, with your husband, with the world, with yourself. With yourself first, and then you let it go. And then if the body naturally heals itself, stay out of its business. People are going to go, wow, you look so good. And you have to be like, thanks for worshiping my thinner body.
Right.
None of my business.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you kind of have to be prepared for all of it. Prepared that it's not going to get fixed. That your body has been permanently damaged. But this is it.
Yeah.
This is... You gotta remove any hope that it'll get better. Right?
Yeah, like all expectations, right?
Are removed, which means you have to face the loss. Grief. Because if you hope it'll change, it's like saying, well, I don't want to face grief right now. No. Face it head on permanently. Right?
Yeah.
So did that help as far as thinking about it in terms of a permanent, like a contract? We talked about a permanent contract. I will allow this body to be whatever it is, and I will never again play the role of God telling it what it needs to be.
Yes, definitely. Yep. It definitely helped me. I felt so much more free after all weekend, and I feel like calm in my brain, and my body feels less puffy and everything.
I felt that way too, and I was super lean. That puffiness, I totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Isn't
and
that
less pain.
That's miraculous to me. That to me was like, with my own experience, was like, holy shit, what I was doing to the body was, my fear of it was creating it.
Yeah.
And once you just let it go, it's almost like, oh, the body says, thank you.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Wow.
It's like permanently living blind to it. It's like, and I can adapt to it. I can handle this body. I can handle 336 pounds. I can handle 350. And I am blind to it. So I'm blind to it. None of my business is irrelevant to me. It's irrelevant to life. I will take what it gives me.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's a larger gift or a smaller gift. Whatever gift of life you get, you'll take it. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Let's schedule our next session.
Okay.
I'll stop recording.